it's so great to see all of you, in the audience. So many names I recognize. Um, so yeah, maybe let's dive into it. Um, yeah, so a few things. So the first thing's top of mind this week, or actually a few launches this week. So maybe a couple things, but the first one on my mind at least is Injective. STINJ is now live, and you guys should all go check it out. You can go right on app.trad zone. You can go liquid stake your INJ. It is. I think it's actually been our most successful launch. We had a lot of people use it day one, over 1,000 users. We had, I think, over $1 million liquidity in the STINJ INJ pool on Astroport on Objective. And I believe, a little bit of alpha, that Nitron is about to release STINJ as a collateral option. So, already like a pretty good use case. Like money markets are one of the most viable use cases, I think, for LSTs. And so overall, STIJ went, I think, pretty well. One reason it's a little bit near and dear to my heart, or I was pretty excited about it. Injective in particular, I think, is a little bit harder to integrate because, like Evmos, they're a little bit different from the rest of the Cosmos SDK chains. Um, they do two things that are a bit weird. They have like basically like they have forked a bunch of the Cosmos SDK code, but then they also do a bunch of stuff to make their chain really fast. And so involved actually a lot of work on the relayer end that I think we haven't talked about this that much before, but basically the relayers to relay between Stride and Injective, especially relay the ICA packets that allow Stride to function. This is the first time anyone had done that, so we had to work really closely with Strangelove to make all these changes to the relayers. But now the end result is that all packets on Objective get relayed much faster, more effectively, more stable. And so it was really exciting to see that whole journey, see it work really stably now. But I think we've had like almost 100% packets relayed successfully on mainnet. So it's been actually a long time. I've been working on this for the last like 3 to 4 months. But it's really good to see that we have this down. And a lot of that same work is also reused for Say or other kind of fast Cosmos SDK chains are coming up. So all in all, was a big endeavor, but I think it went well. I'm actually really curious to hear how other people are have found STIJ or if you have use cases in mind. But Injective is also, as an ecosystem, I think is really starting to blow up. Like there's so much cool stuff being built on there. I saw Frontrunner is like on mobile now. They might be on mainnet later this year. There, Astroport's on Injective. There's all sorts of apps coming along. So pretty cool, pretty exciting stuff. And the team is obviously really lovely. So huge fan of the Objective team. So yeah, I'll show up on Objective. But yeah, I was super pumped for this. This has been a launch that it's been on my mind for a long time. So happy to see it happen. Yeah, one next thing is probably Evmos. So we have two kind of things on Evmos. So the first is the Forge, which is upcoming launch on Evmos. I believe it's set to launch April 10th. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Forge. That or have heard of it. That they haven't, they obviously haven't launched yet, so it's maybe not that there's not a ton of attention. But their UniV3 fork, it's super cool. So I think UniV3 is going into like the license is expiring, so it's going to like the common license. And so other people can start forking it. I think Forge is lined up pretty well with that. It's a super cool deck. I think it has like a strong capability to be probably the most sophisticated decks in Cosmos. I'm not sure if that's going to differentiate them. There's obviously dexes are really competitive in Cosmos, but it's a really cool piece of technology. They working really closely with the Evmos team, and they also seem like it's a pretty high quality team. Um, and so we strongly suspect that we're going to start trying to migrate our STFMOS liquidity and have that try to be the hub for STFMOS and hopefully start kicking off more Evmos DeFi. Evmos has been doing a really great job, I think, of building a lot of really good tech in Cosmos, and now a lot of app developers are also starting to come in. So pretty optimistic about Forge. If you guys are curious about this, John on our team is huge Forge maxi recently. So he's like John Galt on Twitter, but if you ever see him talking about it, he always love to talk about it more. So just seek him out. But yeah, it's also the TLDR thing why Forge can be exciting is the UniV3 model is much more efficient. So you get much more like effective liquidity, and so it's pretty exciting exciting time, and it could end up becoming like a dominant model for which people trade LSTs. So yeah, that's a little bit on Forge. It's upcoming. John, I think, had a Twitter Spaces last Monday. That kind of talks through some much more detail. So I would recommend you go check it out. It should be on the Stride Twitter as well as the Forge Twitter. But yeah, that gives a lot more details. Um, Another thing on Evmos is the Evmos airdrop went live on Monday, on the chain, and then yesterday officially off chain, like on the front end. Super exciting. I think we had a few issues with claims, but I think we've started to figure those out. Around people who had like were just on the border of the Evmos amount. But I think it was pretty good airdrop. We had people like, yeah, it left a lot of usage on the app. People were interacting with it. And we got a good amount of attention for other airdrops too, like Injective. I think I saw some people talking about how they're excited for the STI&J airdrop now that they saw the ST Evos airdrop. And also now that we're doing the new seasons of Stride, I think people are starting to see the how the airdrop kind of gives everything back. Which I think is catching on as a model. One really cool thing, I don't know if you guys saw Neutron's airdrop model, but they also kind of changed a little bit. So on their unclaimed airdrop amount, it gets sent to the Cosmos community pool. It's a little bit different than Stride's model, but I'm happy people are moving towards models where unclaimed airdrops get recycled. I think it's a much more like fair model, I think, and aligns incentives pretty well across the whole board. Um, the only other thing on the airdrop, I think from this point on, the airdrop should be fully automatic. So hopefully no longer require software upgrades to kick off new seasons. We tested this pretty thoroughly. We're like reasonably confident now that in the future these airdrops will just happen fully automatically and there won't be like these delays. So I think the start airdrop has been a little bit more operation difficult than we initially expected. Like a lot more code, given that the kind of unique way it runs. But now we're in a good spot, and hopefully we inspire future airdrops to pursue similar models. Um, right, I know I've been going on for a while. Two more quick topics to kind of cover. Um, One is IBC path unwinding. This is something we've been working on this week. I think Riley had a thread on it, but working with the Skip team, as well as a bunch of other teams in Cosmos. Strangelove is doing a lot of work here too. For how we can unwind easier in Cosmos. So what do I mean by this? Because this isn't really a big issue right now. As you start using more and more interchain apps, or people start building more and more interchain apps, it gets becomes kind of a hassle to have to do so many IBC transfers. So as a simple example, let's say um, uh, I have tokens on Umi that I've done like recursive staking on Umi, and I want to go transfer to an LP position on Osmosis. To unwind this, I have to like undo a position on Umi. I have to extract those SC tokens back to Stride, then send them to Osmosis. And for whatever reason, I send directly from Umi to Osmosis. My tokens are now like stuck. Like they because they don't take the right path going from Stride to Osmosis. All the paths are all messed up. Um, and so if I send directly from Umi to Osmosis, my tokens I can't use them on Osmosis. It gets really hard to recover them. And what path unwinding says is basically users can just focus on one thing, which is send tokens from Umi to Osmosis. And on the back end, the tokens automatically get routed in the most efficient way, like back through Stride, basically, in order to ignore this path unwinding issue. Another big place this comes up is like smart contracts. So, for example, let's say I had a smart contract, the Mars smart contract on Osmosis, wanted to liquid stake some of its Atom, let's say. It can't just send it from Osmosis to Stride. It has to go Osmosis to Hub to Stride, which is really hard because you can't deploy a smart contract on the Hub. And so doing the path unwinding also makes all sorts of interchain apps more accessible to smart contracts, more accessible to governance. This simplifies a lot of like the future of the interchain. I think will have to have path unwinding. Given all that, Skip has been working particularly closely on this. I think Sam Hart, especially at Skip, and so we've been talking to them about how we can get this over the line and kind of collaborate on it, as well as with Strangelove. And Stride has basically what's called IBC middleware on Stride right now, and then the goal, I think, is basically to add this IBC middleware to lots of chains of the Cosmos. And what the middleware will do is basically intercept an IBC packet and run some automated logic on that packet, and maybe send it out somewhere else if it needs to. If we get this middleware on enough chains, then we can start having the middleware basically automatically route the packets efficiently. So anyways, this is something to look out for. I don't think this will go into production next month, but definitely the next few months, I think. And it'll be, I think, a really big value unlock in Cosmos. Like, you no longer have to worry about like sending your tokens in the wrong way or they're kind of stranded. It becomes much more like I want a monolithic L1. I can just move my app or my tokens from chain to chain or app to app. Um, yeah, so that's a really exciting one. Um, yeah, and then last topic. Actually, do you know what this is? Summer, this market caps collateralization.
Oh, yeah, I put that there mostly because I feel like I've seen a lot of our conversations internally have focused on just like the increased market caps. I know there were a few proposals that went up last week that were successful. So maybe just like discussing like what an increase in a market cap for like Mars Protocol, for example, like would imply for us and like our ST tokens.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think this might be referring to lending caps, but there are caps on like SC tokens are used all throughout the Cosmos right now. But one of the biggest uses is money markets. So you can deposit your ST Atom or ST Osmo, ST Luna, whatever it is, and withdraw USDC against it, or withdraw Atom against it, wherever it happens to be. You can do that on three main places right now: Umi, Mars, and Nitron. And all three of them very recently have basically started raising their caps for how many ST tokens you can deposit. And so, yeah, that lending caps exactly. So basically, you can now use these all throughout Cosmos. But because the cap's being raised, it's now easier and easier. And for a long time, it basically was impossible to borrow against your SD Atom because the caps were hit. But now, as they're getting more like they're expanding. I think we're going to see more of a real DeFi economy. Like two things I think is going to happen. One, people can deposit their SD tokens and then actually borrow USD against it. So it's like you have, let's say you have a big Osmo position. It's getting pretty exciting. You can actually just like borrow against a staked Osmo position. You can like go buy a car with it or whatever you want to do. You can, like real world things. But then also it's going to make USDC. People can go lend USDC in Cosmos and earn like, I don't know, 5%, 6%, 10% yield on it. That's really exciting. That's like a real, really cool DeFi ecosystem. I think we're just starting to see. Now, when these caps get raised, I think we're going to eventually start seeing is people are going to borrow more and more or deposit more and more ST tokens and borrow more and more USDC. We're going to see these rates start converging. One cool thing you do here, this is like maybe a little bit more degen DeFi, but if you really want to go long Atom, for example, I can deposit my ST Atom in Mars or Umi or Nitron, borrow USDC, use that USDC to go buy more Atom, liquidate that Atom, deposit that back into Umi, Mars, Nitron, and repeat this. Now it's just like basically 2x or 3x long, but I earn the staking yield. So instead of 2x longing on like a perp market, I can do it here and I get paid to do so. Um, I think it's pretty cool. It's cool to see this like ecosystem start developing. I know I'm a little bit over time, so I've been going on for a while, so I'll take a pause there.
No, that was so awesome. Thank you so much, Vishal. I feel like that you gave us a lot to think about today. Um, so let's see if anyone has their little hand up. If anybody is interested in, making a comment on whatever on what Vishal shared with us, any of the points that he covered, or anything totally new in your brain, feel free to raise your hand and share, or you can drop it in the chat if you are more comfortable typing your response. But just for a quick recap, we got to talk about STINJ, ST Injective, the Evmos airdrop. We talked about the new DEX, Forge on Evmos. We talked a little bit about IBC path unwinding, and we talked about some lending caps, not market caps, pardon my French. Um, yeah, yeah, I'll wait here.
Um, two quick things. One, so just addressing another good fact from this week. We started doing much more kind of analysis on like Stride's growth. So we have a better idea of it. But growth has been pretty good. If you guys are looking at DeFi Llama, we've been tracking. I think we've been growing at between 7 to like 12% a week for pretty much this whole year. So it's pretty exciting. So it's happy to see that, and we should be releasing some dashboards on that pretty soon this week. And then I see someone posted in the chat if we're considering any sex listings. We are not right now, but if there is enough interest, people want to see Stride and more sexes. It's something we can explore. We're a pretty young project, so I've been worried about maybe pursuing it to when we're too young. But if people are interested, we can definitely explore it more. Yeah, I agree. But the DeFi dashboard is DeFi Llama is dashboard is pretty nice. But yeah, you should see a Stride dashboard pretty soon, launching this week.
Mm.
Fun fact: Stride has over 2 million Atom worth of token stake with it now. Not 2 million Atom, but if you denominate everything in Atom terms, we have 2.1 million Atom worth of tokens now.
That is a lot of Adam. But I have invited someone up to the stage to speak, aka Chad Running Cut. Welcome, Chad. Feel free.
Hey guys, thank you for the overview. It's been good to listen this morning. When you're looking at chains like Evmos, are you looking at other wallet integrations also? I know a lot of us Evmos users use MetaMask instead of Kepler or both. So what does that look like for any potential EVM chains that you're doing SASs for in the future?
Yeah, that is a great question. So, two components to this. So, one, we are looking pretty heavily into adding MetaMask support. So, we have a front end engineer who's really good, but he hasn't done much EVM before. So, we actually hired a front end contractor to start working on MetaMask. And I think we should be there like next 1 to 2 weeks, hopefully. So, hopefully, we can start adding MetaMask support then. It's useful for Atmos, but also for Injective. And then there's all sorts of kind of EVM based Cosmos chains coming online, like Canto's another one. So it's something that we want to support. And then separately, just our approach towards wallets, I think we do want to get more coverage on wallets. Particularly, I think Stride is in a good position in Cosmos right now, where we get lots of native users on most chains can interact with Stride. But I think Cosmos is also a pretty small portion of all crypto users. So we want to start getting onto more EVM wallets, like beyond MetaMask. We try to bring users in from like like Arbitrum or Solana or Ethereum or anywhere else. And so we're hoping to start expanding just to wallets and like they're more popular in other countries as well.
Thanks, Chad. All right, let's see if there's anyone else. Oh, I see someone ask, NJV asks, when is the LSM coming?
Yeah, this is something we're working very hard on. I think we've been working with Zaki on this as well as other LSD providers, as well as Notional and a few other kind of validators. The code I think is almost done. There's a few PRs out that we're reviewing. And then we are hoping to put up a prop pretty soon to the Cosmos Hub forum. I think Zaki's going to put this up, and then a vote on chain. But I think in the next, fingers crossed, month, this could be live on the hub. But it depends a little bit on other parties, and obviously, of course, depends on governance voting through. But we're talking to a few people on the hub to try to make the proposal more attractive and hopefully have a higher degree of confidence it's going to pass. But yeah, we've been pushing pretty hard to hopefully get it in the next month.
Very cool. Very cool. Awesome. And we see a good fire reaction. I'm curious also, we see a question. Any plans to use STRD as collateral on Umi or Mars?
Yeah, also a great question, JB. Actually, we have not we haven't thought about this at all yet. Actually, I didn't realize there was any demand to use STRE as collateral. I think the requirements for both Umi and Mars. For Mars, I don't think we can do it because I think the requirements are like 10 to 15 million in liquidity in the AMM, which we're pretty far from on Stride right now. Although, hopefully we'll get there soon. Umi, I think, might be more plausible, although we are still a little bit low on liquidity on Stride. I think it's like 1.2 million. We can look into it. We can ask the team. Yeah, I don't know if there was interest in this. Yeah, we'll forward it along to the Umi team and see what they think. For most part, I also do think it is permissionless. Anyone could put it up on Umi Gov forum, but we'll talk to the team and see if they're interested.
Cool. Cool, cool. That's exciting. And I see we've got some folks typing, so we got some questions coming.
I also see this thing about STIJ and STFMOS. I think STIJ did overtake STFMOS, like Moon said, shortly after launch, like in 4 hours. But then I think Injective price went down or FMOS price went up. So then now flipped again, but they're quite close.
All right. And Robo's asking, is there any discussion about potentially limiting the number of atom that can be converted using the LSM at once to prevent any potential security concerns around quickly converting too many atom to LSDs?
Yeah. This is a great question. Okay, so I'll drop an alpha in here because I think this should go live next like couple days. But I think the latest in the proposal is there are two mechanisms for this. So one is validators have to self-bond some amount, and the amount of onboarding an LSD provider can do is proportional to how much the validator is self-bonded. So the more they have self-bonded, the more LSD providers use the validator. But it's actually not just on the onboarding; it's like a total amount of liquid stake that could go to a validator. So it's like, let's say a validator has 5K self-bonded. Depending on what the variable is, maybe LSD providers will only liquid stake 100K with that validator. And so the hope is that will kind of rate limit this a little bit. So it's like until validators self-bond more and more, like they're capped in how much liquid staking providers can send to them. And then the other mechanism is a global cap on all LSD adoption. So the idea here is there would be like some hard cap around like maybe called 30% or 25% or 33%. And the hub itself wouldn't allow liquid stake providers to liquid stake more than that percentage of total stake. I know there was also talks of adding a liquid staking tax after a certain rate, like maybe after 33% or 40%. But I don't think that's going to be part of this proposal. But yeah, those are the two mechanisms right now. But super open to others too. Like if you think there's something else that people should do, it's not finalized at all, and there's like 5 or 6 different parties working on it, and I think they're all super open to feedback. Thank you. Actually, I'm not sure if that's a compliment, but yeah, anytime, Robo.
I'm thinking the mood is positive, and that it's a compliment. But guys, we are at time. It's 9:30, so I'm gonna say if you have any questions that you feel like you really, really wanted to ask but you didn't get to ask, you can leave them in the chat and we'll respond to them. We'll respond to them in writing, and then when we publish on our community updates medium a recap of this meeting, then we will answer those questions in that recap. Okay, so feel free to send those now. Yeah, and Vishal, if you are able to hang out for like 1 or 2 more minutes, if you see these coming, feel free to answer them if they're quick to answer. Otherwise, we'll put the answers in writing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I can hang out for a little bit. Yeah, the restake. This is a good question. So we added OTC, and then we did it incorrectly. There was like some change to SDK, so we ended up having to remove it. We have no qualms adding back in. It's just been not like a super high priority to add back in, and it's slightly complicated because we need to fix the previous state on it. If someone else has like the bandwidth to do this, we're more than happy to review this PR. And I'd love to get this in, and if not, I have it on like the backlog to do, and we're hoping to get it in the upgrade after the ICS upgrade. So 2 upgrades from now is when it's slotted. But if anyone does it before that, we're more than happy to take a look at that ASAP and get it merged in. But I think the plan right now is 2 upgrades from now.
Awesome. All right, guys, let's call it. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Remember, you can always find us on the Discord server. You can always reach out to us over Twitter, Telegram. But yeah, thank you so much for being here. It's always wonderful to get to check in with you guys. And thank you, Vishal, for your awesome updates. It was really fun to have you on stage with us today. I hope we get to do this. I hope you can be our rep more often.
Yeah, this is so much fun. I will definitely hope to be the next one. I'm gonna try to grab it. I'll claim it right now.
Sweet. Looking forward to it. All right, guys, take care. Have a great rest of your day.